Natasha.
Debbie.
Show.
The show.
Welcome to it. Just two patriotic girls.
Learning about the world.
So please, don't take us the wrong way.
Hey,
Howdy.
before you travel, don't you like to know a few things about what to do and what not to do?
It's helpful.
It is. So today we are going to take a look at Melbourne. 10 things to know before we go there.
How many times did I tell you how to say?
Did I say it wrong?
No, you said it right.
Okay, good.
I was going to say, how many times did I tell you how to say it?
Probably 10, and I've been practicing. I didn't want to say Melbourne, so I'm saying Melbourne.
She was just in here saying that, though, while I was in the other room.
I did accidentally.
She was like, so Melbourne. And I'm like, no, Melbourne. Melbourne. I'm like, you got this. And you did. So congrats.
Yay.
She can say,
G'day.
I can't.
Well, and you got the Melbourne.
Yeah, got that right.
Did it. It
Got
just
that
takes
right.
a second to think about it before you.
Well, it's just
blurt
not
it out there.
spelled that way. So you can't get mad at us too often. Anyway. All right. So yeah, Debbie's right. We're going to look at the top 10 things to know before you go to Melbourne. And I'm sure there's more than 10.
I'm sure there is.
And this gentleman, we used his video for one other thing a few months back. It was actually on how to ride the London Tube.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be, of course, in the United Kingdom. But it was actually a really, really short, but very informative video.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like to the point, got his stuff down. So I hope he does something. This isn't as short, but I hope he gives us some really good information here. And you let us know in the comments if he missed anything or anything you think we should know, or if he got anything wrong.
That's right.
It can happen.
So let's learn about the travel tips that we need to know before going to Melbourne.
Yellow Productions presents
10 things to know before you go to the city of Melbourne in Australia. I'm Chris.
Well, I'm going to say number one is how to pronounce the place first. And that would be
I'm going to say I said it better. Melbourne.
Melbourne. I'm not going to give this guy crap. No, seriously, though, I'm not going to give him crap. I'm actually a little surprised that happened. But the first thing off the bat, like, oh, man.
Yeah.
That means he's going to say it the whole time. Okay, let's go and get it out of our systems.
Yep.
Blah,
Let's
blah,
cut
blah.
him some slack. He made us a nice video here.
Yes. Okay. We're good. We got it. We know. We're going to help teach the world. Melbourne.
Keep watching to know everything that you'll need to know to visit this city, Melbourne, in Australia. And we are standing on the banks of the Yarra River, the river that runs right through this town. The first thing you need to know about Melbourne is just a little bit of background on the city. It is the second largest city in Australia after Sydney. It is the capital of the Australian state of Victoria.
Okay.
It is often considered to be Australia's most European city. Actually, much of the city is foreign-born and has immigrated here. It has been voted the world's most livable city 7 years in a row. Wow. I haven't quite figured out where it is, but they mentioned...
Is that still true? I think we saw that this video is about 5 years old.
Uh-huh.
So don't know how true that still is. Let us know. I just had a moment where I forgot what button to hit.
Oh, no.
I'm like, what do we do? I forgot.
Most livable city 7 years in a row. I haven't quite figured out where it is, but they mention it all the time here in Melbourne. Some words that people use to describe Melbourne include quirky, funky, eccentric, unique, and I might even use the word weird. Not in a negative way, in kind of a cool way.
You know what word I would use to describe it?
What's that?
Melbourne. I'm sorry. I had to, just one more. I'm done now. It's out of my system. I'm so sorry.
I do like the skyline there, looking at the buildings and stuff. That's very pretty.
I was thinking that too. It's really, yeah. I don't think he's moving off this spot though.
I might even use the word weird, not in a negative way, in kind of a cool way. You'll see there's a lot of street art and graffiti, and Melbourne, a little bit weird, but I'm a little bit weird. I like kind of weird places, so that's cool. The city is often referred to as the CBD, or the Central Business District. That's what you see behind me right there with all those buildings.
Now we know.
And when they measure distances in Melbourne and they say, oh, this is X number of kilometers from the city, they measure that distance as a distance from the GPO, the General Post Office. Well, it used to be a post office. Now it's an H&M. So if you go by the city, it's on Elizabeth and Burke. If you see it, you'll know that is the center of Melbourne. And by the way, if you're coming here, there's lots to do in the center of the Central Business District. You could probably spend 3 or 4 days touristing around just in the city center.
Correct.
You don't even have to go out to the outskirts. All right, the second thing to know about Melbourne is the weather here. And if you watch Game of Thrones, you'll know the phrase, winter is coming. It's coming to Melbourne. Actually, it's here. Winter here is like 9 months long. When I think of Australia, I generally think of warm and sunny. And if you can tell by the weather right now, it is not warm and sunny. I am not wearing my usual yellow t-shirt because it is quite cold. The lows since I've been here have been like 3 degrees Celsius or 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
Thank you.
It's been chilly. In the summer,
That's chilly,
it can get quite hot. It can get 40 degrees Celsius, 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But the overnight lows, those same days, can be 18 degrees Celsius or down in the 50s or 60s in the Fahrenheit.
Wow.
So
Wait,
whenever
really?
you're
In the summer?
Yeah, that's pretty
That's
dramatic.
interesting. Yeah, we thought we were dramatic.
Yeah.
Our city, Cincinnati,
Our weather.
not us,
We're not dramatic. Gosh.
not me. Okay, that's interesting. Wow. That's exactly what we're going through at this very moment. Not the 100 degrees, because we're in spring. I know you guys are actually going. This even though this was 5 years ago, it's about the right thing. Timing wise, you're going into winter.
Right.
But we're going through that whole major stupid, really hot during the day, chilly at night thing, and it's killing my throat. So I apologize if you hear me coughing or anything.
Kind of sets off the allergies and
Yeah,
scratchiness everywhere.
It's rough, but I feel for you because we know how that is, and
Yes, we do.
we understand.
coming to Melbourne, make sure to bring warm clothes. Bring a warm jacket, bring long pants.
You're that time of the year,
gonna need it. It's situated on the bay, and the icy winds that come from like Antarctica or off the bay, they're just really cold here. So be prepared for cold weather anytime you come. And it can rain quite a bit, and the rain's pretty unpredictable. The few days I've been here, it has rained some portion of each of the days I've been here. So bring an umbrella.
Didn't know that.
You will want it.
Good
And oh, by the way, if you live in the northern hemisphere, the seasons here are flipped from the northern hemisphere. So if it's summer in Europe, it is winter here in Australia. June, July, August, that's winter here. There's summer, December.
I don't know if you guys saw, on our community post, we mentioned the other night, we showed a picture. We were eating some white chocolate Tim Tams, having some, a Tim Tam Slam and some coffee. And we were watching Muriel's wedding for the first time.
Yeah.
Love Toni Collette. So weird seeing her so young. But in the movie, she goes into one of the stores and tried, where she was trying on all the dresses. And the lady in the store was like, "Oh, when are you getting married?" And she's like, "September." And remember the lady was like, "Oh, a spring wedding." And I'm like,
we're like, what?
No, I instantly, I was just like, I think I said to you, I was like, "Yep." I would have been totally confused, perplexed had we not started doing this stuff.
Exactly.
It was just a little stupid thing, but love it, and we can't stop listening to ABBA now. Sorry, just thought I would bring that up.
January, so make sure you're thinking about that. The third thing to know before you come to Melbourne is about public transportation. Melbourne has the world's largest streetcar network. I don't know if you can see any behind me where I'm standing. They're running just over that way. But these streetcars, they call them trams. It's an extensive network that runs all over the city. They're pretty cool. There's some old ones, there's some new ones. I really enjoy traveling on them. You really don't need a car as a tourist in Melbourne. But when you're riding the trams, you need to get like this little IC card if you're going to ride them far away. If you're just riding them in the city center, they are free within the city center.
Ours are here too in Cincinnati. Again, since this is 5 years old, let us know if any of this is out of date. I'm assuming probably not, but you never know. I mean, a lot can change in 5 years.
And that's good to know that you don't necessarily need a car. And I wouldn't really expect that you would need to when you're in the city. But I mean, obviously we would because we want to go see all the places.
Or one of you guys can pick us up.
And also there's this tram number 35. It's like a loop that goes around the city center. It's the tourist tram, and it even gives you kind of like an audio guide and tells you what you're looking at as you go around the city. So check that one out when you visit. In addition to trams, there are also trains. The trains use that same MyKey IC card. You can buy those IC cards at either the train stations, some of the tram stations, and you can also buy them from 7-Eleven.
Really?
And you can buy them in like increments of a certain dollar amount. You can also buy like a week pass. So that's what I did. It was like 40 Australian dollars for a week's worth of unlimited travel.
That's not bad.
And so think about, are you going to travel a lot? If so, it might be worthwhile just to get the week travel pass.
Okay.
Now, the public transportation network is extensive, but it can be slow, particularly the streetcars. The streetcars run on the streets, and because they run on the streets, they're subject to traffic and stoplights and this and that.
We have this
so
in common.
it's not super quick to go across the city.
Okay, we have that in common.
There are
Got it.
plenty of taxis and plenty of Uber. They're plentiful. The taxis take credit cards. They're polite. So that's another great
So get a
option
car.
as well.
Rent a
And
car.
the final great option in the city is feet. Melbourne is a very walkable city.
You can always use your
and
feet.
there's a train going behind me right now. There's a few major
can hear
train
it.
stations in the city. I've taken the train a little bit, pretty good. Okay, the fourth thing to know, if you're coming to Melbourne, is about driving. So I know I just said you didn't need a car, but if you want to go outside of the city center, you want to go like the
Call
Great
it.
Ocean Road, you want to visit
Yes.
the 12 Apostles, you want to go see kangaroos and
Yes.
koalas and the
Wombats.
wild, then you're going to
Everything.
need a car. And so if you're driving in Melbourne, there's a few things
Talk
you're
to
going to need to know. One, they drive on the left. Most of
Yeah,
the
we
world
know.
drives on the right. They drive on the left here. So just be aware of that.
Debbie's got that.
Also, they have a lot of traffic cameras. Melbourne in the state of Victoria is kind of a nanny state. They have 5 different types of traffic cameras, including traffic cameras that average your speed over long distances.
Go ahead, Debbie. Why does that bother you, Debbie?
I don't like that because then you can't speed.
Lead foot over here. So I guess I'm driving.
Well,
So
you can get there just a little bit faster if you just.
And will issue you a ticket if you're going too fast over a long distance. So
Over a
don't
long
drive
distance.
too fast.
short
Drive the
distance.
limit. And if you're in the city center, you should also know they have this thing called a hook turn. So if you're at an intersection that has a tram, if you want to turn, I believe it's right, you actually have to turn right from the left. You go all the way over to the left, you wait in this little spot, you wait for the tram to go by, and then you make a hook turn. Actually, they show things how to do it on the State of Victoria website, so if you're coming here, make sure you understand what a hook turn is.
Let's check that out.
The fifth thing you need to know before coming to Melbourne is about the language.
slang?
Chris, what do you mean the language? Don't they speak English in Australia? Well, they do speak English in Australia, but it's English with certainly a little bit of an accent. I haven't had a hard time understanding most people around here, but there was a waiter in a restaurant that I went to, and I couldn't understand a word that
Really?
he said. So there's some slang words you should know. Slang, maybe not even slang is the right word. They're just Australian English. So I call the
Such
things
as?
I eat with French fries that's red and made of
okay.
tomatoes, I call that ketchup. They call it tomato sauce.
Okay, but my question is this, and I think we talked about this in a previous video. Did not we say, that was a fun way to start that sentence, that ketchup and tomato sauce there is different?
Yep.
I think so.
I believe so.
I don't think they're the same thing, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
Kind of seem to be, yes.
I think they're 2 different things. I mean, again, first of all, why would the same company pictured here make
2 jars, same stuff, call one
They
tomato
wouldn't.
ketchup and one tomato sauce.
This is the common sense kicking in. What is the difference? Let us know.
When they use the word thongs, that means flip-flops or slippers, as you might call them in
That still
Hawaii.
messes me
Those things, sandals you wear on your feet with the little thong that goes between your
Not
toes.
underwear, apparently.
That's probably why they're called thongs. Like shorts for swimming, they will call togs, swimmers, or bathers. And finally, if you're driving and somebody says, hey, chuck a U-ey, that means to make a U-turn or to turn around. There's plenty more, but you'll pick
that
it up as
different.
you come here.
It's really not that different.
All right, the sixth thing to know before you come to Melbourne is about money. So in Australia and in Melbourne, they use the Australian dollar. The Australian dollar exchange rate when I did this video to
5
US
years.
dollars, it was $1 Australian dollar is about 80 U.S. cents.
That's totally different
so
now.
$1 Australian dollar.
This does not pertain to us at this moment.
U.S. dollar. The Australian currency, the size of the notes increases with the value. So as the value gets bigger, so does the size of the bill. The coins, the $1 and the $2, those are issued as coins. So don't throw away all your coins. They can be quite valuable. The lowest denomination of a coin is 5 cents. There are no pennies in Australia.
We need to get rid of pennies.
Everything is rounded to the nearest 5 cents when it comes to a price.
Good to know.
And the final two things to know about money, people always ask, Chris, where do you get your money from? Where do you exchange it from?
Good
there
question.
are some exchange places in the city, but get your money from an ATM. Your ATM, you're going to have the best exchange rate, and
Really?
ATMs I've found in Melbourne
That's
to be
nice to know.
plentiful. There's like an ATM pretty much on every single corner.
That's very
and
helpful
they take
information.
international cards. That's been pretty easy. The final thing to know about
Exchange
money
rates
is
are.
about tipping, and Australia does not really
You guys
have
too, huh?
tipping
Okay.
in their culture, so you do not need to tip. Occasionally you might
Okay.
see a tip jar, and tips are only for like super, super good service. They're not like some places where tips are just expected if people do
We're gonna
things
do it
for you.
anyway, if we want
so
to.
that
Yeah.
taxi is not gonna expect a tip, it's just the price of the taxi ride is all you pay. All right, the 7th thing to know before you come to Melbourne is about store hours. And they
Earlier.
close really early. This is something I've found very strange about being in Melbourne, is that at like 6 to 7, between 6 and 7, like everything starts to close. I mean, there's tons of people walking around the
weekends,
street,
too.
but the stores close. So it's 7 p.m. is the closing time for most stores, though Thursday and Friday they're open later, often until 9 o'clock for
Okay.
some late night shopping. The exception to that rule is like restaurants, bars, drugstores, and supermarkets. They stay open later.
Oh, so the
but so if
shops
you want to do
close
shopping, just make sure you're doing it before 7 p.m.
Well, that makes sense then.
Saturday through Wednesday.
Yeah.
And the opening time for most stores is 10 a.m.
Okay.
Okay. Now, we did hear some of that in
Mm-hmm.
another video that we did, but I think he went into it just a little bit better.
And that makes more sense that shops, and before it kind of made it like everything was
Right.
closed at that time. And I'm like, well, that's
Yeah.
kind of weird. But this makes a lot more sense.
It sure does.
Also, some restaurants or establishments, their hours will say something like open from 11 a.m. dash late.
What?
Had no idea what late meant,
What does that
so
mean?
I asked some local Melbourners, and that's Ben, if you've seen my travel guide on Melbourne, and late means like 1, 2 in the morning. So if you see late, you can expect places to be open until about that
That's
sort
funny
of time.
as heck to me.
Right.
Okay.
The 8th thing to know
I like
before you
it.
come to Melbourne is about food. Melbourne is a foodie city. The people who live here consider themselves really to be food connoisseurs.
Cool.
And so the food in Melbourne, it's pretty good. If you haven't, check out my video on cheap eats. You'll find a link in the description below.
Oh,
Cheap
and-
eats in Melbourne,
Whoa,
some of
what's
the places
that?
I ate at that I love and are cheap. Melbourne, I mentioned earlier, is a very international
That looks
city, and
great.
so their cuisine is also very international. You'll be pretty hard pressed to find Australian food. I mean, there will be some places that serve modern Australian, like kangaroo and meat pies and hamburgers with beetroot, but for the most part, they have a lot of Asian food, Italian food, kebab.
I'm pausing a lot more than normal, and I'm sorry, but we were just at the grocery before this video.
Uh-huh.
I bought, and when I said beets in the previous video, just so you guys know, I do mean,
Beetroot.
yeah, but we just don't say beetroot here.
Mhm.
I'm saying like in a can
Yes.
that's already pickled.
hmm
And I think that's what you meant too, but I'm going to try that on, we don't eat beef, but we eat like plant-based burgers and
Uh-huh.
turkey burgers and stuff like that. I'm going to try one on my
Yep.
next burger, and I'm excited about it because I love beets. Again, I'm referring to pickled beets
hmm
in a can. I think that's exactly what you guys were talking about too. So I'm excited about it. Sorry, just want to let you know.
Fruit, but for the most part, they have a lot of Asian food, Italian food,
You're like us.
kebabs, just a
Kebabs
super
aren't
international
really
selection.
a whole lot
popular here,
Definitely visit Queen Victoria Market. They're only open in the day, like sometime before 2, sometime before 4 or 5. Lots of great food and eats at Queen Victoria Market.
Okay. What's that?
Some of my favorites here are Pepper Lunch and Tim Ho Wan. Again, the more detail on those in my video on cheap eats in Australia. All right, and also if you're looking for supermarkets, the supermarkets here, Woolworths is a big one, and Kohl's is a second one. And we used to have Woolworths in the U.S. They've gone out of business. They were
Long
more
time ago.
department stores. Here, it's a supermarket, and
Okay,
Kohl's
different.
is not the same one in the U.S.
didn't think so.
K-O-H-L-S. It is C-O-L-E-S.
Got it.
Kohl's.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I'm back. Sorry for the strategic pause. I had to replace the battery on my microphone. I'm losing a bit of sunlight. I'm doing it in the sunset, so I'm going to wrap it up. We got
Beautiful.
the last 2 to go. The 9th thing to know before you come to Melbourne is about coffee. Melburnians will tell you that their coffee is like some of the best in the world around here. And so when you're getting coffee here, it's mostly espresso-based drinks. And by the way, as a side note, I'm standing in front of the Melbourne Casino.
Okay,
and
I
they
was
have
like,
this
what?
nighttime fire show. So if you see some reflections on my face, that comes from
Kinda
the
wonder what was
fire
going
on this
on
fire
there.
show.
Me
All right, so the espresso-based drinks here, there's a few things they have here that you might not recognize if you go to a coffee shop. One, they have something called a flat white, which is a combination of espresso and steamed milk without the froth. They also have something called a long black, which is basically a double shot of espresso added to water. And the long black is the closest thing to standard American coffee. And they also have a short black, which is a standard espresso. All right, so let me wrap it up because this, like, it looks like I'm in a rave club or something. The 10th thing to know before you come to Melbourne is about water and beer. That's a really interesting combination, huh? It'll make sense as I talk about it.
Let me know.
So if you search like water quality in Melbourne, you'll get to Melbourne's city website where they will tell you that they have some of the highest quality drinking water. A loud motorcycle. Some of the highest quality drinking water in the world.
Awesome.
And so how this relates to beer is people who live in Melbourne will tell you that Melbourne has some of the world's best beer because of the high quality water.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So back to water and then on to beer. There's plenty of public drinking fountains across the city. They also have these bottle filling things. So pick up one plastic bottle, maybe even where you leave home, refill it as you go around the city, fill it in your hotel room. Tap water, super tasty, good for you. You won't get sick by drinking the tap water here. Also, back to beer now, because it makes the best beer. The legal drinking age in Melbourne is 18. They love their beer here. It is served everywhere with every meal, practically at every
Who
place.
doesn't in
not
most
every
places
place.
love
Some
their
places
beer,
are
I'm
called
just saying.
BYO, and then you can bring your own liquor. It's often typically wine, but you'll see it on the side. Some place might say beer and BYO.
Really?
That means you can bring your own drinks to that place.
Okay.
Can't do that here.
And if you're ordering beer here, it comes in 2 sizes, a pot or a pint. A pot or a pint. A pot is about a half pint. So those are some phrases you'll see.
Never heard of
and
that before.
if you're looking to try out some beer in Melbourne, you want to know the best place to do it, a really good iconic place, because it's also a place that's in my travel guide. The place I go first in Federation Square, there's a place called Beer Deluxe. They have a number of different Australian, Melburnian micro brews on tap. So you can check that out to sample some Australian beers. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video.
Well, that was super interesting. I think he gave us a couple of good tips there.
I think you did too. I learned a lot actually on that one. It was really, I'm stuck on one. It's kind of maybe silly to you guys, but the exchange rate is the best at the ATMs for getting, that really is helpful. This is the kind of stuff you don't typically hear and find out about when you're watching travel videos or things like that. It's like you have to go like through a bunch of different channels to find that information out. And that's very cool that he put that in here.
Absolutely. That was going to be one of my tips that I pointed out that I really enjoyed. I did like not knowing that we don't necessarily have to have a car in the city, which I kind of assumed.
I think we would just walk more, you and I.
Yeah.
In the city itself.
But obviously, since we plan on traveling a bunch of different places, we would have a car to go around to the other places.
Yeah, and where's like, let us know if you know, like, what's the, I don't know, there probably isn't like a specific place that's better than the others to rent cars for long periods of time.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be one of the most expensive aspects of any trip that we take because we plan on being gone for a long time. I almost wonder if it's worth buying like a crappy car. Seriously.
Just get a camper.
Rent it?
Yeah.
That's got to be a lot of money. I loved his tips and things.
Yes, I think that he covered a lot of great stuff, and I'm glad we watched it.
Yeah, and knowing that a lot of things we have are very similar. You know, we have very similar climates and stuff. You know, the transportation, public transportation, you have it. We do too. Is it slower? It is. At least is what he's saying.
Right.
It's slower here too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we typically have cars. But I'm excited to learn more about Melbourne and other places in Australia. I hope you guys like this. Let us know what you would add to the list for things for us to know, and other people just from other people not from Australia as well.
Yes.
Of travel tips to know.
Thanks for watching. We hope you guys really enjoyed watching this with us and learning some stuff. And please let us know if there's any other tips or tricks that we need to know about.
Until we see you the next time, guys, please love like jazz.
Be as strong as Tyson.
Thanks so much for watching.
Bye.
Bye.